Alright, welcome back everyone. It is LaughNgamez here. I am back with some more Starcraft 2 1 versus 1 replay cast action. It's going to be another one of these games from the Adrenaline Masters. So we've got ourselves a best of 3, and it's going to be a Protoss versus Zerg this time. I think it's going to be a very scrappy series, so I'm excited to watch this one. Protoss versus Zerg with two very aggressive aggro players. In the bottom right-hand side of the map, we've got Chivo's RagnaroK. RagnaroK, I think it's still fair to say he's an up-and-coming player. He hasn't had like a huge result or anything to my knowledge. And so he still has a lot to prove, and he's still putting in a lot of effort and everything. He's a very good Korean Zerg, but can be on a bit of the aggressive side. And his opponent, spawning in the top left-hand side of the map, playing for Team LP, it is Patience. His username is in Chinese, because I'm guessing it's one of his team accounts. But yeah, it's Patience. He's very good, probably more known than RagnaroK, if I had to say, Korean Protoss. That's because he, I think, has been a champ. Yeah, he definitely has. I think he's been a champion in the past, like won a DreamHack or something like that. Very good. Also a very aggressive Protoss player, and that's why I'm excited to watch this match. Sometimes matches can just be real messy, and then when you have someone like who's very aggressive like RagnaroK, like someone like Patience, I think we're bound to see a little bit of that, definitely. Since it's a Patience series, we're more than likely going to see some Blink Stalkers, I think, because that really is just his bread and butter. And he made his career off risky Blinks, and now he's back kind of playing full-time again. He's showing us some basically some more of the same that we've seen for years with Patience. And ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy these videos, I'm just going to say it right out the gate, make sure to press that like button. We did it for the last one of these videos. Let's try and do it again. Break 20 likes on this video, as it goes to show that you guys enjoy these kinds of commentaries. And as I really enjoy doing them. The fact that I can go home and cast some Starcraft 2 because I know you guys are going to want to watch it is really just awesome. So yeah, make sure to press that like button. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you're watching this for the first time, be able to press that subscribe button. As I said, I put out a lot of these videos. Now, we take a look here, and this is just so bizarre from Patience. Look at this, ladies and gentlemen. Patience has built his Stargate on the low ground versus RagnaroK. And it's just right there. Because he's going to like try and hide it from an Overlord ducking in or something. However, if RagnaroK runs a Ling to check for a third base, this is like not a surprise at all. So this is really interesting. Oh my gosh, RagnaroK's going to see it anyway. Okay, this is one of those things which are like, it could have been genius, but it didn't really work out. The idea that Patience tried that is still really genius, and I enjoy that immensely. Anyway, let's just see. So we've already seen Patience building his Stargate in a bit of an odd spot, but it's still a Stargate nonetheless. So gonna be having an Oracle out right out the gate, just probably gonna try and pick off a drone or two. Of course, RagnaroK is a seasoned player, or he's no newbie to StarCraft 2, so he knows when to build his spore crawlers as a Zerg. So he should be more than adequately prepared for an Oracle, particularly since he spotted this. Spore Crawler in a very nice location, not the usual spot, so Patience just gets one drone, then has to get on out of there. Meanwhile, another Overlord is still just scouting out for any follow-up tech, and the follow-up tech is a Robo. This Overlord, by the way, just barely gets out. That's a bit of a kick in the teeth for Patience. Now we see two Oracles. They're going to be moving out on the map. Just two Oracles is far better than one, but still, RagnaroK's defense is pretty darn good. We take a look. Though, Adept shades on into the natural, nabs itself, two Adepts, nab 3 drones. Not a terrible trade, but not a great one either for Patience. I think it really depends what he's going to be going into behind this, and the choice for what he's going into behind this is the third Nexus now. I mean, we have yet to see anything else go up, like a bunch of gateways, like a Twilight Council or anything like that. No, by the way, 7 drones just died. Wait a second. Okay, pardon my bad observing. Fortunately, I cast most of my games from replay. Okay, so the Oracles, they came on in, and they actually killed off 7 drones here. I completely didn't think the Oracles would get any damage done because, simply because of the fact, okay, yeah, 3 drones went down there, simply because of the fact that there's like 3 queens there, but no, the queens actually repositioned, so this gave Patience a very nice window to get on in there. Patience moves on in with the Oracles, and yeah, he did nab up a fair few more drones, and he gets them, and then he recalls out. A very nice play. He actually only killed 4 more, 3 were from the Adepts, but a nice bit of damage getting done there. Both of the Oracles escape, nicely done, and yeah, a very cool play from Patience. Apologies while I had to tab out there. I just realized that I had Nation Wars on in the background. Like, my TV was flickering behind me, and I was like, what's that? And then I turned around. It was Nation Wars. And, so yeah, just had to make sure I closed that. Let's take a look here. An Immortal Sentry is on the way, a bunch of gateways for Patience. No Twilight Council, though, so this makes me think it's just going to be like a big old 3-base attack coming out of the Protoss player, and it very well could be. The Zerg is rather in the dark. He's seen the Robo. That is it. He doesn't know about the mass gateways. I feel like if you're playing versus Patience, though, by default, you should be looking for something like this. Or just getting ready, and we see RagnaroK. He's made a roach warren. He's firing up a few roaches, but then also some drones. So it's not like he's not preparing anything for this attack. However, he definitely wants to be going all into roaches from here on out, because boy oh boy is Patience going to be coming for him. Patience getting up 6 gateways here, but then he's also building a Forge and a Twilight, so there's a chance Patience doesn't just go all in here, but he is going to be pushing, there's no doubt about that. Some sentries, some stalkers. I'm going to be looking to put the herding onto the Zerg player. You never want to let a Zerg just macro up, or you generally don't want to let a Zerg macro up, so in this case, seeing Patience just go for a push, even if it's going to be a light push that he just force fields and then retreat, is very good to see, because right now, we take a look here, RagnaroK has invested in a ton of units, and Patience, I think, is just going to go home behind this. There we go, yeah, he's building probes. RagnaroK, though, also realizes, like, okay, yeah, you're not completely all-inning me. He's going to make himself an infestation pit. We take a look, though, and RagnaroK is still building more lings here. This is no small commitment that he's gone for. There's a chance he's going to counterattack here. He's actually going to try and push up this ramp. I think Patience really wants to back up and go home. He's actually going to warp in some Zealots to join up with this attack, though he doesn't have charge or anything. I'd like to see Patience go home, because RagnaroK has made a lot of units. Instead, he decided to stay out on the field, and I don't know how well this is going to work out for him. Oracle's coming on in, really going to help out. Gets a Ravager, shuts down a few of the units, but yeah, I think Patience definitely should have gone home in the first place. It didn't work out badly for him, though, but really the fact that RagnaroK committed to so many units there and is generally a good sign for a Protoss to retreat, partially because there's such a defender's advantage at the 3rd base of the Protoss on this map. Just you defend up that ramp and you're fine. Now, we take a look here. RagnaroK's going into the Zerg style. That is pretty darn strong in the current meta, the Nidus Swarm Host, and I'm honestly not sure how good Patience's defense is going to be versus a style like this, because, I mean, like, I know Patience is back and he's very good, but I'm not sure how good he is versus, like, the current meta of Zerg, and you have to play pretty, like, Patience is a very good Protoss, but you have to play nigh. Basically, you have to play perfectly versus this style. Otherwise, you will just die to Nidus Swarm Host. You'll lose a Nexus after one volley. You lose your army maybe to another, and then it's just game over. And yeah, in comes these Swarm Hosts. They're going to be dropping out their Locust towards the 3rd base, and Patience is going to be losing his 3rd. And the fact that he's got out 1 Colossus is nice, but yeah, this 3rd base is gone. So this is going to be very, very good for RagnaroK right now. The Colossus is going to retreat, but that Nexus gets focused down, and that is a free Nexus there for the Zerg player. Might even get a pylon, unpower a couple of those gateways, and he does do that, so very nicely done from the Zerg player, using that Nidus Swarm. And Patience, he had a Phoenix on patrol, but he missed it by an inch. And there he's going to pay the price. Partially, I feel like it's this map, the fact that there's a lot of space for Nidus Swarm Host, but there's always going to be another wave too. Another Nidus pops up to the south. Patience is building himself a very strong army here, as these Oracles are going to be picking off picking off this Nidus, which is nice, but then there we go. There's always another. Patience is going to have to get his army into position to deal with this. A hallucinated Colossus. Oh my gosh, this is actually a 1000 IQ play from Patience. Man, is this guy ever smart. Trying to use a fake Colossus to bait out the Locust, but actually go for the real one. So that's a bit of a bummer for the Zerg. Actually, or for the Protoss. Actually a really big bummer. And Patience in a bit of a tough spot already. The Zerg player is maxed out. He can trade with his Roach Ravager, which is relatively cheap. There's not a lot of high-tech units for the Zerg. There's one Colossus. Make that 0 Colossus as it goes down. And Patience just having a tough game number 1 here versus the Zerg. The hallucinated Colossus does not count as an actual Colossus. He may hold off versus the Roaches, but there's always another wave of Locusts coming. And that's actually really going to hurt. RagnaroK is actually going for the Nexus again. Now, I feel like this is a mistake because... or maybe he will get it. Yeah, he will. Locust put out a lot of damage. I felt that was a bit risky, and maybe he should have gone for the units, even though he got the Nexus and is completely fine. Patience is just dead here. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, well played by RagnaroK using Nidus Swarmhost. Yeah, just well done by the Zerg. Like, Patience can blink all the Stalkers he wants, but it's not going to help him. He didn't defend the first wave, and from that point out, as the Protoss player, you are pretty much just dead. As the Zerg player is going to start building up a bank, taking more bases, no harassment or anything out on the map, and we are just waiting for the GG from Patience here. Maybe if you could build up like 4 Colossus or something, and then like maybe a few Archons in the mix, I think there's a chance for the Zerg player, or for the Protoss player, pardon me. But just the fact that there's just that he didn't, and then he's now at 2 Colossus again, but he could potentially lose one. But the fact is, Patience had already lost 2 Colossus. If he had 4 right now, it would be a much different game, but he's just lost his Nexus over and over again, and he's about to lose another. No, he actually saves it. That's a good save. But I still have a hard time imagining a world in which Patience wins this game, because we see RagnaroK firing up 13 Lurkers. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer, ladies and gentlemen, but I just think that Patience is going to have to pull off a miracle here in order to win this game. He can maybe go for a push or something like that. But when there's so many Lurkers out, they're going to have adaptive Talons in about a minute here. It's just going to be very, very tough for the Protoss player. Like, what does he warp in? I think he's just got to make some Archons. He's made 4 DTs, which can definitely make a play happen. I'm guessing they're going to be for Archons, though, as they join up with this main army. Patience is going to try and secure up a 4th base. I mean, you can try and macro out of this, but the thing is, your macro is not going to cut it versus Zerg. Colossus trying to deal with these Lynx as they're just barreling towards the natural, barreling towards the 3rd base of Patience. And as Patience was starting to build up an army again, he loses his natural base. His 3rd base, he's losing a ton of probes here. I mean, he will clean up all the Lynx, but RagnaroK just has so much room to play this game. And Nidus getting called on in, so RagnaroK can just bounce between all of his bases here, there, and everywhere. More spines on the way, for the Zerg to defend the 5th base to help make a stand here. And I mean, Blink Stalker Colossus is very good, but the Zerg has had more than adequate time to prepare. Lurker Swarmhost, a very turtley style in a sense. We see the free Locust going out there. Patience is going to have to retreat, and then the timer starts all over again. I mean, the Swarmhost have just ducked into the Nidus, but if we could click on them and see their cooldown, it's not actually that long. Like, I think it's maybe like 20, 30 seconds at max between the Locust expiring and the next wave going out. Patience is going to try and drop some Archons. You got to give it to him for trying that. And by pressuring RagnaroK, he did take the heat off himself, but he's still rebuilding his natural base. He's just doesn't have that much tech, like, and there's gonna be Broodlords out for the Zerg, and once there's Broodlords, you need carriers to counter that, and then that's when it really gets into the late game, which you get forced to go into, and there's just not a lot you can do. And still, this army of RagnaroK is just absolutely terrifying here. Patience can give it a try. I'm not actually sure where his army is. Okay, it's just chilling. Patience was lucky to sneak off this 4th base, but RagnaroK was just moved across the map, and Patience wasn't in position to deal with it. Now there's a fresh wave of Locusts, a ton of Vipers here, and so many Lurkers. Patience, there's not a chance in the world he's engaging this army. GG gets called. Yeah, I mean, like, anyone could see that GG coming. So, ladies and gentlemen, game number 1 goes to RagnaroK. I mean, he played that style well, so we're just going to load on into the next game here. We're going to see if things get changed up a little bit here. I mean, the Zerg style, that Zerg style, is it's a very good style. Like, I feel like if Zerg plays it like, Zerg should play it at every opportunity, right? That they can. Like, I generally try and avoid balance talk in my commentaries, because my goal is to commentate the games, not give you my opinion or anything like that. So I generally try and avoid it, and I did for months, years, talking about Zerg. Zerg does have generally a pretty good spot, and it's really been highlighted on the recent usage. Like, the Swarm Host Nidus thing is pretty darn recent. But, oh, by the way, Patience is cannon rushing, so yeah, he doesn't want to play versus normal Zerg stuff. This is why we've been seeing more cannon rushes lately, because you pretty much have to kill the Zerg early as Protoss, because the late game Zerg is favored. And that's partially where the issue comes from, is in the past when Protoss was favored in the late game, Zerg could be favored in the mid game. They could have all the mid early game shenanigans they want. By the way, good cannon rush from Patience here, by the way. They could have all the shenanigans they wanted, and it wouldn't really matter ultimately, because as long as the Protoss got to the late game, they'd be fine. It's kind of similar with PvZ in a sense. Protoss makes it into the late game. Despite what the Terran does in the early game, generally that's a pretty good spot for the Protoss. Little bit less so with the enhanced shockwave on the EMP these days, but still generally pretty good for the Protoss. And so that's always been the case in any matchup, at any time. Like, if you have that late game to fall back on, you're in a pretty good spot, and it allows really the better player, or a good player, to succeed a lot, because as long as you get good at that defensive style, you're going to win. We, for example, saw it with the Terran mech back in say, 2014, 2015. Back when Swarm Hosts were a thing, mech really was back when Swarm Hosts just dug into the ground, mech really was favored. And it really was. Like, it was unbeatable. If Terran got to the late game with a big bank, a bunch of siege tanks and Ravens and battle cruisers, Zerg couldn't do jack against it. And so, with that being the case, all of a sudden, it was really just Terrans trying to make it to the late game. It didn't matter what happened in the early game, as long as you get there. And I think the reason why people think Zerg is pretty strong at the moment is because Zerg seems to be very strong with the mid to early game with, say, like the Nidus Swarm Host or other kinds of aggression, and then they also have the favored late game. And that is honestly a massive thing in my opinion. Patience gonna throw up a pylon here, actually talking about the game. This is not just the LaughNgamez rant show. Oh, that pylon actually allowed the killing of the queen, which was really, really nice for Patience. RagnaroK secured himself a third base, or a natural base in a different location, but ultimately I think his economy has really been slowed down by this. Patience, I mean, is getting up his natural base, he's making a sentry, he's making an adept. Like, this was just a classic cannon rush, which RagnaroK didn't do anything too drastic to respond to. And as a result, Patience is just going to have the inherent lead from this. And so yeah, that's very, very good here, I feel, for Patience. But yeah, that's my opinion on the whole debacle. And I mean, even if I think something's imbalanced, I don't usually talk about it, because it definitely doesn't help me as a caster. But the fact that we're going to be seeing Zerg get changed, they're being specifically addressed in the points that make them really strong in the mid and the late game. Personally, I'm fine with them being tweaked in either one, because yeah, this adept, by the way, giving it the good old college try, gets laying. The cannon gets cleaned up though. RagnaroK is just making a ton of drones. Yeah, but like I just feel that with the Zerg changes, I think the late game change is the most important one. Because the race that has, like, late game, I don't care if the game's balanced mid-early game. So a lot of people will talk about, like, oh, this timing attack is too strong or something. Really, it's just all about the late game, in my opinion. There's a reason why there's always a race that's been favored fundamentally in StarCraft 2 in a matchup, and that's completely because of the late game balance. Like, PvT, despite all the changes that they've made, Protoss versus Terran, it's not really changed the overall feel of the matchup, and that's because Protoss still has had the best late game. It's a lot worse than it used to be. So it's a lot more even these days, I feel. But still, Protoss ultimately does have the better late game to fall back onto. And so it's just, it's like, oh, you've always got that safety net. Even if you don't win the game early on, you fall back to the late game and you're in a pretty good spot. By the way, Patience going for 4 Adepts. Roach is on the way to try and deal with this. There's some Lings out. We'll see how much damage this is going to get done. And the same applies right now for Zerg. I mean, it doesn't matter if you don't win in the mid game with your swarm host or whatever. As long as you get up a good enough amount of infestors, you're going to be fine and probably still win the game anyway in the ZVP. The ZVT is arguably the same. And then for PvP, kind of the same. And it's been all over the board for years, depending on the tweaks. But I think that's really where Blizzard needs to address it. If we had options for every race in the late game or something, I don't know how Blizzard would possibly go on making it so that all the races are equal with the same unit set in the late game, with an ideal unit set, like maxed out army. But if they could get close to that, I think the game's going to be a lot better. Anyway, right now we see Patience moving out for an attack. RagnaroK's trying to head it off at the pass. This is a lot of sentries, though. This is a lot of Protoss on the ground. Force field's going down. Nice catches on the Ravagers there from Patience. Zealots doing what they can. Working away on this army. Just doing a fantastic job tanking. The 2 Immortals putting out a lot of damage. The Prism, as long as that stays alive, I think Patience has got himself a pretty good push. He's traded out well. More and more Lings are on the way for RagnaroK, which is nice, as it's buffering for his army very well, but Ravagers going down are tough to replace here for the Zerg. We see Patience, he's probably going to want to get off another Warp, and there we go, more and more Zealots coming on in. I think another round of Stalkers after this would be good, if possible. Patience definitely has the money. It's really all about his Gateway cooldown. And those are just all off cooldown now, so another big Warp, and this time of Zealots. Once again, he's still got the Immortals in the back to deal the damage. Actually, yeah, he's still got the 2 Immortals. So, Patience, I think, has just won this game while I've been on a rant. Ladies and gentlemen, looks like we're going to be having ourselves a tied-up series. I hope I haven't put you off too much with, like, a balanced rant. I do think I have a somewhat valid opinion there. Of course, everyone has one. You know what they say about opinions. Sentries killing off Ravagers, doing their thing, but yeah, that's just GG. We've had 2 pretty straightforward games. The Cannon Rush sets Patience up, gives him the win with the push, inevitably. Whereas RagnaroK won game number 1 just by going into night as Swarm Host, really. And just doing the classic thing. I don't know how many Protoss on Thunderbird we've seen lose a 3rd to Locust. But here we are. This gives us let's go into this with kind of a fresh slate. We've got a tied series, 1-1. Who's going to be able to take it? I think the Cannon Rush is a good build for Protoss in the meta. It's kind of odd how it's become way, way more popular lately. I think ultimately it is going to fall off once the new patch hits, which should be soon. I don't believe the new patch is out yet. We shall see. Anyway, Probe moving across the map for Patience. We check that production tab. Well, what do we get? What do we get? Is it going to be a Gateway? Is it going to be a Forge? Will it be a Cannon Rush? It's a Gateway. So no super fromage, but the Probe gets here in time and is a giant pain to RagnaroK. It's like, hey dude, I'm Cannon Rushing you. Blocking your 3rd. Or blocking your natural, pardon me. And we just take a look, yeah, normal opening here from Patience, but blocking the Zerg's natural base is really nice for the Protoss, I feel. 100% worth it. I mean, someone like RagnaroK, it's a common thing, but I still think that you don't enjoy that happening as the Zerg, because usually you can sneak it. Or something. now we take a look. The probe moves in. He's like, give me some of them minerals. I'm gonna head out. And yeah, RagnaroK just left, taking his third base, or his third base as his second. He'll probably take this base at some point. But then Patience says, nope, I'm a hold out here. Make sure the Zerg doesn't take it super quick or anything like that. And I really just do love it when Protoss blocks your opponent's natural. Like, I really think if you're someone who's newer to StarCraft 2, or even if you're just a casual player, just try blocking your opponent's expansion. It will throw them off. It's going to throw you off too. But if you say throw up a pylon, throw up an eBay, block the drone, block the probe, harass the SCV, if you delay that with like 1 or 2 simple actions, the amount it's going to throw your opponent off, as long as you just focus on your macro after that at a low level, it will get you so far. Because I've played something like 11 to 13,000 StarCraft 2 games or something like that. It's probably up in like the 8,000s or whatever. Maybe a little bit before that. Maybe like 5K or something. 5, 6, 7, 7K maybe. In which you really start to deal with those things like it's no problem. Or at least in my experience. And so it just goes to show that if you're someone relatively new at StarCraft 2, you're playing versus people of your skill level, they will be thrown off immensely. And it's a completely valid strategy to go for something like that. As then they'll just be maximum tilt. They'll be like, oh man, because they're already stressed out, because playing StarCraft is really hard. Right now, if your Patience, you're a little stressed out because 2 Lings are in his base, just scouting everything out. Oracle's getting chrono boosted out. Lings are fighting the probes, but the Adept's out, so that is going to get shut down. Ooh, RagnaroK, is he going to get the probe? Is he going to get it? Oh, he does get it. Nicely done by RagnaroK, at least getting one of them. That is always good to get a more or less free probe. That's just the usual thing that happens in PvZ. The 2 Lings run in because the Stalker or the Adept is out on the map. This Stalker, by the way, is just dead. It dead. That's generally why you make an Adept and not move out with a Stalker, because your Stalker is going to have itself a bad time. And oh, this is a corner wall for Patience. Oracle's trying to get some damage done, but the Lings can sneak through here. You see, we saw Patience have to throw up an extra pylon because it wasn't a solid wall. You cannot wall on a corner in StarCraft 2. You may be like, oh, well, the 2 gateways, there's only a small gap. No, the gap is actually bigger. It is much bigger. And it's part of the pain why walling with a command center is hard, because they got, like, rounded corners. Like, if we look at the Nexus, like, that's actually... Like, if the Nexus was used in a wall, you'd really have to make sure that you're in a fair bit. Anyway, this has just been me rambling, basically. I'm tired. I've been up since 5 this morning. I started a new job, so early mornings for me from here on out, but I'm still going to stay on top of the YouTube videos. I really enjoy doing them. There's a reason why I'm here. I'll probably be asleep in like an hour or 2. But I'm still really enjoying these games, ladies and gentlemen, and I hope you are too. This is kind of the way I commentate more. Oh, by the way, nice block there from Patience. This is kind of how I commentate more when I'm like on live streaming or I'm doing like a long broadcast or whatever. As I just feel that it's more relaxed in a sense. And that's where I'm at in this cast. Can we get a like for a relaxed LaughNgamez cast? Usually they're all so uptight. They're all just so focused on the games. The jokes are so few and far in between. Patience, by the way, this game. He's getting up a prism. He's getting up more gateways. His third base attempts have been denied. He's made a ton of sentries. And this should really be tipping RagnaroK off to start making roaches. While the Oracle's being a pain and harassing. Oh, and it does go down. Nicely done. While the Oracle's being a pain and harassing, this is not a third base coming out of the Protoss player. It's pretty... In the past, in like Heart of the Swarm, a Protoss making like a few sentries just for defensive purposes was a lot more common. Oh, nice wall from Patience, catching them Lings. Very well done. Yeah, in the past, Protoss making sentries for defense was a lot more common. now if you see like 3 sentries like Patience had just there, like RagnaroK saw, you're gonna start making units. And so far this game, I feel RagnaroK has been tipped off enough, and so I don't think Patience's attack is gonna get anything done. Yeah, Patience throws up a Forge, he throws up a Twilight, he's just gonna macro. I'd like a second Forge or a Robo or something else, maybe even a Templar Archives, because he's not gonna get as much done this game as he did in the last one. Take a look at this though. This is what happens when you have 2 really aggressive players up against each other. A normal Zerg would be like, okay, the Protoss is actually canceling his attack, I'm just gonna macro up. RagnaroK says, no, I'm gonna keep making Roaches and Lings, and he's gonna all in the Protoss, who was originally being the aggressive one. We're seeing Zealots warped on in here for the Protoss, Dark Shrine on the way as well, +1 charge. I like the DT choice. We're also seeing a Void Ray. This is a very, very mature response from Patience. He sees what's coming his way. Oh, Patience! Oh, God, the Prism almost gets picked off. If that had gone down, that probably would have been GG. Now we see Patience, he knows this attack is coming. He's got a good amount of sentries, so he wants to fight on this ramp so he can use his force fields. It's tough to use force fields this well, though, but so far, very well done by Patience. He really is one of these classic Protoss with very high force field knowledge and just usage, as he is able to catch himself a good number of Roaches. Now the Zerg player going to duck around towards the 3rd. Is Patience in position for this? A few of the Lings get spotted. The Protoss player is repositioning right now. Now the Zerg has got himself a pretty good angle. This Nexus could be under fire right now. The Zerg might just focus on this. He's going to Corrosive Bile the Nexus a fair bit. More and more Corrosive Biles going down. Force Field's going down. The Nexus at half HP right now. The Immortals, the Void Ray are very, very good versus the Roaches and Ravagers. The Void Ray, by the way, I must say, a very good call from Patience. Enough to force the Zerg out basically indefinitely. And Patience, by the way, showing that you can cancel the prismatic alignment for a Void Ray. That being said, though, the economy for Patience really was slowed down, but so was RagnaroK's, the 4th just going up now. The Protoss player is getting himself his +1 much sooner than the Zerg, which is good for him. He's also warping in a ton of DTs. Spore Crawler, though, will have something to say about this. I believe the play for Patience is probably going to be to run in with the DTs, snipe the Spore, then go for the Hatchery. That would be my guess, because this is a lot of DTs. I hope he does bring the Prism with this attack, though. Oh, Baneling's getting spotted, by the way. RagnaroK, one of these very aggressive Zergs, planning on going for a counterattack as usual. But here we see, in goes the DTs. There's Roaches at the 3rd base for RagnaroK, though. This is so smart, him doing this. Patience has to pull the DTs out of there. A play that can sometimes get a ton of work done. Getting shut down this time. Very nice by RagnaroK. Very smart. Just the presence of a few Roaches there was enough to shut down those DTs. Force fields go down. Holy force field Batman from Patience. He's locking in a ton of Ravagers, a ton of Banelings, though. And he actually just takes a pretty good trade there. All the while a DT in the natural base of the Zerg kills off like 8 drones. Very good for Patience while he starts up his own 4th base. I'd like to see +2 start for Patience here pretty soon. He's also going into Blink. Probably resume Immortal production if I had to say so, as you generally want to keep checking up. 3 Archons on the way is very nice to see for the Protoss. Adding a lot of buffering to the army, really giving some legs to it. RagnaroK took a bit of damage. He's now going to be getting harassed by this Prism, but oh, Patience, you got to micro this. Patience is a very, very active player. He doesn't usually make mistakes with things like Warp Prisms or Oracles or things like that. Now these Archons in the Prism. Picks off of Creep Tumor, probably going to be looking to get a few more. Very nice from the Protoss, shutting that down. 23 Banelings on the way here for the Zerg. Looks like RagnaroK potentially going on the offensive again. Banelings, though, really are countered by Archons, and this Protoss is going to have himself 7 Archons in the mix. The one Void Ray also being a giant pain. going to be working away on some of the Ravagers. Actually going to kill off one or two. It would seem. Patience, so ballsy, dropping Archons on top of the Zerg army. Now the Queens have come with this one, so the Void Ray going to be under fire. This is so many Banelings, but Patience's force fields have been so on point here. Walking the Zerg, dividing it, and just allowing him to completely dictate the fight with his mass sentry. Now he is starting to run out of energy, but while the sentries may not be walling anymore, the Archons are, and the Zerg army is just folding right now. A lot more Banelings are about to finish, though. This could really turn things around. Meanwhile, the Prism going to be juggling these Archons, but they are going to run out of HP. The Protoss player, I think, really needs another big warp, and there we go. These Immortals need to be babysat by Patience. If he loses the Immortals, things can actually turn against him when the fight, I think, has been going pretty okay for him. Keeping the 5 Immortals alive is very, very good for the Protoss player. These Immortals are going to regen shields. They're going to get their barrier again. DT's even in the mix helping out. Charge lots just here to buffer. Patience has to be careful not to overcommit, but I think that was a very good fight for the Protoss. He's now getting up +2 weapons, which he'll probably have the next time they fight. And that's going to make his force a lot better. 2 Immortals also going out in the Prism for some harassment. Patience, really impressive Protoss play in a straight-up fight right now. Picking off those Changelings. The Zerg player getting up his Spire. That's always a nice transition for the Zerg. Melee on the way here as well. The Banelings will need an upgrade. And keep in mind, RagnaroK has really delayed his tech this game in order to go for such a large Roach Ravager army. Yes, he's getting the tech up, but it is much later. Patience now with his +2 Immortals. Going to work away on that hatchery. Forces a cancel. Nicely done there. Just always using a Prism to harass. Meanwhile, some Zealots heading towards the 3rd. RagnaroK, though, got a handful of Lings. Really going to help him out. Buy himself a bit of time there so he can get a proper response. Immortals working away on Ravagers, getting any pickup that they can. Any pick-off. Patience just making more Immortals, making Archons. There is a Spire, and there is a Hive done for the Zerg player, or the Spire will be done in a second, so that could go into Broodlords, not into Mutas or anything. And that will eventually put the Protoss player on a clock. However, seeing as how it's Patience, I doubt he's going to be sitting back too long before going for a big attack. As I say, that 5 gateways on the way up here. 5 gateways on the way. He's on 4 bases. He's getting his +3 attack. I think we're going to be seeing another attack from the Protoss player pretty darn soon. Now, he lost all of his sentries, but his ground army is still terrifying here. We'll see how well the Zerg is going to deal with this, but the upgrades for the Protoss as well. I mean, it's going to be melee high. Melee will be high for the Zerg, but his Ravagers will not benefit from that. His Roaches will not benefit from that. Protoss player is getting up a Templar Archives. Patience could always go into carriers or something behind this. He's not immune to the late game, but you generally do want to try and push the Zerg when it'll, as soon as you can as the Protoss. It is a bit unfortunate that there's no sentries, though, in the mix here for Patience. I wouldn't even be surprised if he warps some in order to bolster up his army. But I really would like to see him either A, start going into carriers, or B, and I prefer the option B, go for an attack. Because once the Zerg hits up to those Broodlords, you really are in a much, 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 much worse position as the Protoss. It completely turns the game around. If the Zerg was just going to build Roach Ravager forever, you'd be fine sitting back as the Protoss. But the fact that Broodlords are on the way really means that Patience has to get something done this game. He's got to attack now. He's got to do something. He's cleaning up creep tumors. He's getting up a 5th. But Broodlords are on the way now. 7 Broodlords are so good. And I mean, 12 Archons is a fantastic army. But without some Blink Stalkers at least underneath this force, I don't know if I see an attack happening. I think Patience needs to recall this Prism, but it's probably going to be a little bit too late. Yeah, this Prism, if he recalled it right away, I think he could have gotten away with it. But loses 2 Immortals in that Prism. He's going for a Zealot counterattack. He is going to be moving on into where the Broodlords are not, so this army could potentially move on in and snipe off a base, but Patience does retreat. He's making more Archons here, no Stalkers, as he goes for another big Zealot attack. But Archons are only good up to a point. Eventually, you'll have enough Broodlords to deal with 5 Archons, which is the same as enough Broodlords to deal with 15. And we're going to see Patience try and go for an attack right now, but with no Blink Stalkers to bridge the Broodling gap. You just have to retreat as Patience. He loses a few Archons. Now he's going for a nice counterattack. getting themselves 10 drones. But still, then there's the elephant in the room you got to deal with as the Protoss, which is the Broodlords. And so we need to see Patience. He's just warped in 6 Stalkers. He's up to 12 currently. We need to see him warp in more, or just to attack around. Maybe this is enough to make it happen. It's probably enough to one volley a Broodlord. But still, these Broodlords putting out a lot of damage. Banelings pursuing, more Stalkers being warped on in. 10 more Stalkers is a huge amount for the Protoss. He does have +3, he's got shields, so his Archons are tankier. RagnaroK getting up to Infestors as well while this is going on, so he just wants that better late game army. Broodlords are getting volleyed down, but since the Stalkers blink forward in the front, they are vulnerable. They eat a lot of Baneling shots, but there still is a lot of Protoss left on the ground. I think Patience can keep this going. The Zerg has a lot of supply tied up here. Now, though, the Infestor count is starting to rise. There's going to be those nasty spells in the mix. One Fungal has already gone down. Stalkers can't blink while under Fungal. Broodlords are getting picked off, though, and in non-insignificant quantities here. I mean, there's only like 5 Broodlords left, which is a lot worse than, say, like 8 or 9 Broodlords, as they don't add as much damage to the fight. Patience, though, still having a hard time breaking through here. He's up on army supply, though, still. Does he have another big warping to help out? More Stalkers coming his way. The Infestors now mainly out of energy, and all of a sudden, the Broodlord count has dropped, so Patience can just engage directly on into this, I feel. Another blink goes underneath. There's 3 Broodlords left. If Patience can get underneath these Broodlords, he's going to be able to clean this game out. I feel there's 2 Broodlords left. As one more falls, more Stalkers get warped in, and that's it. Patience able to make the attack happen. I feel like just with holding those other attacks that he was able, and just having such a good army and everything, he was able to win the game, as he definitely had a lead going in there, and he played well enough to make sure not to throw it or anything like that. So that's a very important part of being a StarCraft 2 player, not giving your lead away, being able to seal the deal, and he did. So ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to press that like button. Of course, if you have thoughts on StarCraft 2, leave a comment down below. If you thought my, say, kind of rant was completely off, let me know. Give me your peace of mind. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you watch to this point in the video, I think you legally have to subscribe at this point, as you just watched 42 minutes. And so you're probably a fan of the content. And I definitely put out more. So I'll see you next time. This has been LaughNgamez.